Well, a very good evening to you all, and welcome to the West Ham Weekly for the second attempt tonight. My sincere apologies. Everything was set up, everything was nice and ready, and it went like that in a flash. I knew you couldn't hear me, and I couldn't see anything on the screen. And well, let's try again, shall we? I've got to thank you all because I was going to say I'm celebrating hitting 2,000 subscribers. How I've still got anybody watching after all the technical faults, I really don't know. But I thank you all for getting me to 2,000 subscribers. I hope you've all learned how to lip read throughout all this time that you've been following me. Seems to be the only way that you're really going to understand what's going on. I just want to make sure that you can hear me. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Can you hear me? Yeah, right. Good. It sounds like you can. So that's good. Right. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, we're going to talk very, very briefly about the transfer window, the closing down of the transfer window, and about how it's been kind of financed, and about Rob Newman's sort of take on the window itself. Obviously, we're going to talk about player news, all the latest player updates. I'm going to give you a little rundown as well. Those who haven't watched it, a quick rundown on how many loan players we've got out at the moment, because we've got quite a few. Quite a few of the academy players are out on loan, as well as Vlasic. I hear Vlasic scored again tonight. That's his third goal in something like 4 starts or something like that. Hey, Italian football, eh? So I'm going to talk very briefly about the number of players that are out on loan and give you an update on how they're doing. Of course, player updates like injury news and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we'll get into the games, the last 2 games that we played, and what can we do. But, we've got to talk about VAR, and we've got to talk about where it's going and what might happen with it, and how it should all be handled in the future. So once again, thanks for getting me to 2,000. You put up with me, which I greatly appreciate. So thank you for that. Let's start off with transfer window business, and about Rob Newman. He was interviewed the other day about the transfer window. Hopefully for us, it becomes a distant memory, because it's kind of like taken over all our lives, hasn't it, over the past few months. It's been awful trying to sort of keep up to date. We're buying someone, we're not buying someone, etc., etc. But I'm quite glad it's over and we can actually get on with the business at hand. Look, we've signed 8 players, as you already know. 7 of those players are senior international footballers. And I mean, that's unheard of, isn't it, for West Ham United? 7 current international footballers, and the 8th player represented England at under 20 level. So not bad at all. Newman spoke about the process that went behind how we recruited the players, and we kind of heard it all, throughout the summer transfer window and beforehand, about due diligence and about how much time it takes to actually find the right players, etc. And Newman spoke about it. He spoke about how West Ham United, the scouting network, etc. They go out, they watch players, they watch them several times over. They feedback reports, etc. But they not only do they, and we've heard this about David Moyes, not only do they look at the player and what he can do on the pitch, they also look at the footballer as to what his attitude is like off the pitch as well. So all this stuff that we hear about David Moyes, getting the right characters in, etc., it's part of the criteria. Rob Newman has kind of stipulated that, and not only do they report back to Moyes about the football, they report back to Moyes about the character himself, which is really quite interesting, because I think many of us kind of heard it, but maybe sort of thought, well, is that really true? Is that really what Moyes wants? It's really what Moyes wants, which is very interesting. Look, what else are we talking about? Newman also talked about the caliber of footballer that we're after. And again, we've all been quite, I don't want to call it dismissive, but maybe not quite as believing when we hear that David Moyes is after these big name players, etc. And Newman said, we're going for players that are likely to be attracted by, likely to be targeted by Man City, by Liverpool, etc. And yes, he said it again himself. Calvin Phillips, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, and all those players. And Newman talked about how this is the market that they're now shopping in when it comes to when it comes to bringing footballers to West Ham United. Now, many will say, well, maybe we're trying to overachieve by getting players like that in, but perhaps Lewis Paquetá is the first of those many players that might start coming to West Ham, looking at West Ham as maybe being quite a lucrative, quite a favourable team to come to. And it was good to hear that as well. Look, he talked about how the whole of West Ham United work towards getting signings, not only the scouting system, not only the manager, but also the board, etc. They're all behind it. They're all behind a strategy that they sit down and discuss about what players they want to go for, what the key players, who the key players are going to be. When a player isn't achieved, they go to the next target, etc., etc. So a lot of people asked, and especially in January, what the hell's Rob Newman doing for his money? Why do we have a scouting network if they're not doing the business? Well, I think Newman's kind of alluded to exactly what they do. They go out, they look at players, they view them not just once or twice. I know other managers work different ways, but why not do the due diligence and make sure that what you're getting is what's on the tin, I guess. And so they aren't working. And also Newman said they've already started to work on next summer, and they'll start putting a list together of the players that they want to target at the end of September. Of course, some of those targets might be, we might go for them in January if they're available. But Newman has said the work has already started on next summer. So they're already identifying the players that we need. And we kind of know. We know that a number of players are about to leave. Will leave West Ham United at the end of the season because their contracts are coming to an end. Players like Ogbonna, players like Cresswell, Lanzini, etc., and a few others. If their contracts aren't extended, then we're going to need replacements for those players. And we might end up buying, I don't think we'll buy as many as 8, but we might end up buying another 4 or 5 players next summer. But also we're going to look at some of our youngsters who I just talked about. All of them, quite a lot of them are out on loan. And maybe we're going to look at trying to fill 1 or 2 gaps with the youngsters that we have as well. So I think it's given me that confidence. I think looking at the transfer window, he was really happy with the transfer window, really happy at the players that we got in, the caliber of player, the quality of the player, the character of the player, etc. And I think West Ham, I guess, deserve what, a 9.5 out of 10? Am I being picky? Maybe. I know David Moyes maybe wanted another defensive midfielder to complement what we had, but had he got another defensive midfielder, would we have gone for Paquetá as well? I don't know. Look, we are the 3rd highest spenders in the league, in the Premier League. Chelsea spent £251 million. Man United spent 14 million pounds. We spent just under 164 million pounds. Depends on if you add the add-ons, etc. We only sold a handful of players. We only sold Ajibola Olise for £500,000. I think we got something like about £1 million or so compensation for Sonny Perkins from Leeds United. And of course, we sold Diza Diop as well. Now, many people are asking, well, how's this all being financed? And there's an awful lot of speculation that this man here has fronted all the money, etc. Now, I read an interesting article today. Okay, Sean Whetstone wrote it. He loves all his financial stuff, etc. But I thought it was quite interesting at how the finances are sort of managed, because the money we've spent, 160 odd million pounds, you don't actually need all of that up front. You need something like a quarter to a third of it up front. So roughly speaking, we needed anything between 40 to 60 million pounds cash in order to sort of lay down payments for the players that we bought. So the Europa League bought in an additional 38 million last season, and something like about 14 million of that has gone into the transfer kitty. We already plan to spend 50 million, quite sort of well known now. We already planned to spend 50 million last winter, and we didn't do that as well. And also, we've still got the availability of MSD Holdings. There's still a 5-year deal in place with MSD Holdings that we can get credit from them at 9%. But Kretinsky has come in and he has offered the club, if you want to borrow money, I'll give you a more favourable percentage rate of 6%. So the money's there. The money was there. Now, a lot of people are saying Kretinsky, He's thrown all the money in, which, well, just said, it's come from extra money from finishing quite high up in the league. It's come from extra money in doing well in Europa League, etc. And Kretinsky might invest more. He might increase his investment in West Ham United, but he's primarily an investor. He's an investor, so by lending West Ham money, by putting funds in, etc., to clear the debt as he did, maybe putting a few quid in for one of these signings, etc., doesn't necessarily mean that Kretinsky is going to go out and buy West Ham United next year, as many people think. So the finances come from the earnings, the money that we've got. We had money in the kitty from the January transfer window that wasn't spent. We got money in the kitty from the Europa League, money in the kitty from finishing quite high up. Apparently, the club they budget for finishing 10th place, so anything above that is extra income for the club. So we're quite, in terms of making sure that we at least were able to put the down payments down, we had that money available to us without having the need to sort of dip into borrowing more money from Kretinsky. But it's there, it's available if needed. So all in all, I think it was quite a good transfer window. I'm sure you'll all agree. I'm going to go through the comments now and see what you guys have to say. Good evening to you, Epic. Again, you're on mute, so we have no... I'm sorry, mate. Honestly, it's frustrating because I had everything set up. I've been working today, finished at 6, and I had everything set up around about 7, half 7. So I was doing other stuff, etc. And then when it came to go on, my fault. Should have tested it just before I went on. Good evening, Hammerette. How are you? Yeah, thank you. Much appreciated, Hammerette. Richard, good evening to you. Even on mute still, you could tell was just about... I wasn't happy. It wasn't a very happy Stell half an hour ago. I've got to be honest with you. I was effing and blinding under my breath. I must admit. Good evening, Gary. How are you? Chelsea. Good evening, Shaky. How are you? Lucky I'm allowed to start that. That's good. Good evening, Andy. How are you, mate? We'll see you all again. Thank you. I'm thank you for coming back. A lot of people would have just given up and thought, sod this, I'll go to bed. Good evening, Howard. Time for a doob. Good evening, Mr. Harrington. In that last episode that still broadcast, I thought he talked a lot of sense. Very funny, Richard. We'll still be late on being late. Well, I think I was on time. I owed that to you at the very least. Paul, does this episode count as a repeat? In fact, it kind of does. I was thinking I'm going to get rid of it, but I've already had 400 views on that video of 3 minutes of me being on mute. I think that's a novelty. I'm going to keep it there. I've changed the title though. Howard, best wait for that until still get about the... You know what? No women's team today. I'm going to talk about the academy, but there's nothing to discuss about women's team. So there you go. There's 30 seconds saved for you. Good evening, Martin. I was never in favour of VARs. I didn't think it was needed. And what happened over the weekend was absolutely deplorable. Good evening to you, Darren. How are you? I hope you're well. Epic, nothing wrong with VAR. The real problem is the referees. Well, we're going to talk about VAR later on. Good evening to you, Daniela. How are you? Thank you for joining, Mr. Shinegold. Stella appealed the red card, but Willis might be on. Good evening, Steve. How are you? Good evening, Rhonda and Tony. No matter what it is in the world, if big money is involved, you will always find corruption. And I have put it in the title, and it was clickbait. I won't lie to you. Is VAR corrupt? So many bad decisions the weekend just gone. You can't help but feel it. You can't help but go, hang on a minute, what's going on? But let's talk about that in a little bit more in depth. Mr. McCarthy, don't take the piss. Can anyone hear anything? Yeah, very funny. Who else we got? Good evening to you, Lawrence. How are you? From Lexington, Kentucky. I love this. What time is it over there, Lawrence, in Lexington? I am unmuted. Thank you, Adam. Good evening, Kaiser. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. The usual suspect. Evening all. How are you? Thanks for joining as well. Vinay, serious. Can Moyes use another tactic apart from Antonio lone striker? Well, interestingly, I'm going to discuss that as well because I know quite a lot of people were really unhappy about the tactics he used at the weekend. Did he need to? Stu, good evening to you. Still furious about Saturday. I'm really upset about VAR. I mean, I was there at the game. We saw it. It was like when you see it real life, you sort of go, nothing wrong with that. Not about being biased. just nothing. There was nothing to indicate that was a foul. And the fact that we'll talk about it later. Peter, good evening to you. Thank God I have my idiot guide to lip reading to refer to. Good evening, Victor Fenn. How are you? Thank you, Martin. Much appreciated, mate. Thanks to you guys. Gary, shit happens. I'm not really, but there you go. Good evening, Schmiegel. How are you, mate? Can't yeah. Mr. Bong, how are you? Good evening to you. Thanks for the bonus. See, a novelty. Imagine getting 2 shows in one night. A novelty 3 minutes that you could hear F all at. And I bet that gets more views than this one does, than this proper show does. Congrats. Jay Hammer, good evening to you. Yes, Peter. Good evening, Neil. How are you? All the way from down under. God, it's a bit late for you. 6:18 a.m. on the Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Who else do we have? Adam, blame the officials. They're shit as refs and shit on VAR. It's not the technology. Well, let's discuss that. Let's discuss that later. Good evening to you, Joan. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Vinay, Vlasic more suited to playing in his natural position. How strange. But also, let's be honest with you, Italian football is a lot slower. It might just suit his temperament, his style of football a lot better. Maybe, I kind of look, if he does really, really well and comes back and he tries to nick that number 11 shirt off Paqueta's back. I like to be in the changing room when that happens. Mind you, Paqueta, excuse me, he'll get the number 10 shirt when close your ears, Hammerette. He'll get the number 10 shirt when Lanzini leaves at the end of the season. I guess so. It's all good. And why not? That would be a player that we don't have to buy. Imagine he goes out on loan, he gets the confidence, he smashes it, comes back and plays alongside the likes of Paquetá and all that sort of stuff. That would be fantastic. Darren, Rob Newman looks like a B-Tech Steve Bruce. That's unfair. Gary, I think I might hate Chelsea as much as the Spuds now. What a dirty, cheating team. Wish Bowen would have booted Mendy in the face to give him Mendy, actor of the year. What a performance. What a performance. English Yarder, good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Peter, Moyes about not having enough players and will now moan about having too many. Give him time. Give him time. No, I'll talk about that later. 1.9 billion spent in the Premier League during the transfer window, and we have a VAR system that ruins it all. Who else we got on? Good evening to you, Steve WHU. Waiting for Moyes and Deckers to be charged. No, they're not. Interestingly, they're not going to be charged for their outbursts. They wouldn't effing well dare, would they? Not now. Certainly not now. Good evening to you, Richard. How are you? We won't have these types of players if we go down to the Championship. We won't. We won't. We won't. We won't. I'm very confident of that. Missed that ground. I know. Brought a patch of it home with me. I'll tell you what. Why don't we go into the kind of, I've spoken about the transfers basically and done. So why don't we go back into the kind of the first part of the show, I guess, which is going to be about tickets. So, after the club's relentless ambition not to issue season ticket cards, they ended up, relenting. They did it in the end, and quite a number of season ticket holders that now have the old-fashioned season ticket card in their wallets. And guess what happened for the Spurs game? You guessed it. Some of them didn't work. Not only did some of those not work, the NFC tickets also didn't work for many people. You see, when you've got an NFC ticket on an iPhone or a smartphone, the idea is it's meant to automatically update itself to the next game. What I've been having to do, and probably quite a few other season ticket holders having to do, is you've got to go into where you save your season ticket into your wallet, and then you've got to manually do it yourself. You've got to manually update it yourself. You've got to press a button, then press it back again, and then it comes up with the next game. How ridiculous. So, of course, what West Ham United have done, rather than not bother with NFC, they decide to send everyone an email. They send everyone an email to say, remember to update your ticket. Well, no. The ticket is meant to be updated automatically by itself. But now people are getting emails that they don't bother to read because they think it's junk email. So people are getting an email that they don't bother to read telling them to update your ticket on your phone. Wouldn't it have just been easier had they either done the system that they had last season where you get an email with your ticket attached to it each game, or you just send out the season ticket cards like everyone was asking in the first place? Look, it took an average. We were there before the game, something like about 40 odd minutes, give or take. And we just got in just as the game was about to kick off. And there were an awful lot of people behind us as well. It was awful. And I don't know what's going to happen with NFC tickets and so on. But West Ham United have got to sort something out because, it was also to make matters even worse, because it was the Spurs game. There were an awful lot of people who were held up at security, so of course they were kind of even more cautious about people coming through and checking and double checking you. I had one guy who just did me with a metal detector, and he went, "Oh, no, turn round, I'll turn round, no, I'll turn back." It's like, mate, get on with it, So you had that. You had the queue at the turnstiles as well. It was chaotic. So I think West Ham have got to do something about these tickets before, people are going to get really, really upset. And the tickets for the first group stage game against Steaua Bucharest only arrived today. So there's an awful lot of people phoning and asking about their tickets and so on. And they only just were sent out today. So if you've yet to receive your ticket, do check your emails because the tickets started to arrive today. What else went wrong? Well, this morning, if everybody checked their season ticket priority points, as season ticket holders, whenever you buy a cup ticket or whenever you buy an away ticket, you get a priority point. And those people who logged into their accounts this morning found about half a dozen or so or more points gone, completely gone, because the system screwed up again. So there was a queue. One of my mates tried to phone the club this morning, and he said the queue was like on the phone, just like it was going to take hours. So people were not only upset that they couldn't get their ticket for the game against Steaua Bucharest, they were also phoning because there was a screw up on the point system. The point system's back again now, by the way. It's no longer that blip has been fixed. But things keep going wrong and wrong and wrong. And then we get to away tickets, because there's another little fiasco going. On away tickets, the demand for away tickets has been higher than ever. Now that we've been successful, etc., there's more and more demand for away tickets. Now, we've got a situation with the Silkeborg game coming up where we've been allocated just 760 tickets for that away game, which is not a lot. But we're going to have to get used to it throughout the Europa Conference. If we get through the group stages, we may meet other teams that have got just very low numbers in capacity at their stadiums. Now, we have 800 bondholders. We've got 700 away season ticket holders. Plus, on top of that, there's Club London season ticket holders who get a percentage of away tickets too. So all in all, we've got 15, 16, 1,700 people waiting to get 760 tickets for the Silkeborg game. So there's clearly going to be a number of fans who've got the privilege of bondholder and away season tickets who are going to be very, very upset. So let's see how West Ham United are going to deal with that. And then if that's not bad enough, then I've just mentioned about the Europa Conference tickets. There's been the screw up there. Like I said, 3 tickets were sold. You could buy them all for a package, and they've only just been sent out today. Look, if you haven't received your ticket for the Europa Conference game this Thursday, phone West Ham United ticket office 0333 030 1966 or email them at ticketoffice@westhamunited.co.uk and see if they can sort you out, because it's a little bit crazy. It's getting a little bit farcical. People are getting really pissed off, but there you go. Right, so let's move on to the academy and talk a little bit about the academy team. Then we're going to get on to player updates. Then we're going to get on to the games that were played in the senior team and VAR. Actually, before I do that, let's go into the chat and let's see what else people have got to say. Daniela, has anyone else seen the post from Steaua Bucharest manager? Pleads with West Ham fans to fill the ground. He wants his players to. Yeah, apparently Steaua are not doing too well at the moment. They're playing to capacity crowds of 10,000, and the stadium holds over 55,000 fans. So he wants his players to get that experience. Good evening to you, Mice Collective. Fabianski and Antonio will stay for the next 5 years. You might not be wrong. Peter, those who made that hideous decision should make a donation, a charity that West Ham support. I'd rather have the points, to be honest. Hammerette. Hammerette says, it doesn't look great so far this season, yet I'm confident and we'll climb the table pretty quickly once we get our shooting boots on. But think about this, Hammerette. We've played 6 games so far. I can only honestly say we played 2 games really, really poorly. The first game against Man City and the game against Brighton. On any other day against Nottingham Forest, hitting the bar, missing a penalty, etc., we'd always smashed 4 past them. We played really well against Villa. We got our points there. I think we played really well against Spurs and Chelsea. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. I think we played really quite well against them as well. And we were, we got a point off Spurs. Maybe we could have won that in the end. And we know what happened with Chelsea, the VAR. So I'm not too worried. Bill, it's too embarrassing to charge them. Absolutely. About, you were talking about, Peter, about the hideous decision. It's too embarrassing to charge them. Absolutely. I mean, they just haven't got a leg to stand on charging Moyes and Declan for the outburst that they came up with. Steve, think the ref should be charged for impersonating a ref? Well, it's all too little too late. I'm going to talk about the options that we've got for VAR. What are we going to do? VAR is here to stay, but something's got to change in the way it's being managed, surely. Adam, but that's UEFA, shitheads. English Yardy. Calvin Phillips is crazy. He's getting no playing time at City. What a waste of a talent not being used. There's many that think that Man City will come in for Declan at the end of this season and do a swap deal plus cash for Calvin Phillips. Would you take that? Gary, I'm still shocked that Alesi was sold. I am a bit surprised as well, to be honest with you. Richard, only the big 6 are allowed to spend. Big, but not little old West Ham. But we've shown that we could do it. John, 16 million for sold players. It's not a lot, is it? But 16 mil. I think a bit more. I mean, it's 17, but it's not a lot of money at all, is it? Mice Collective. Golden Sullivan's other business made a lot of money during lockdown. They've got money, but I still don't think they're going to sell. Happy they have 10,000 average attendance for Steaua Bucharest. They have 10,000 attendance. Good evening, Pat Holland fan. How are you? Happy. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Lee. I can't believe West Ham goal disallowed against Chelsea. VAR is corrupt. Good evening, Bradley. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. See you Thursday, maybe. Grove beforehand, I'm guessing. Darren, good evening to you. No, I've already said good evening to Darren. Steaua Bucharest playing a 55,000 seat, but only 10,000 watch. Good evening, Michael. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Good evening, Dan. How are you? Good to see you here. Who else have we got? How much did Forest spend? Forest spent just a little bit less than us, 145 million. And apparently they are being looked at by Financial Fair Play. But we're on the which one is it? Is it the UEFA one? Or I think we're on that watch list as well. We kind of been spoken to about, but we haven't been spending. You're allowed to spend a certain amount of money over. I think it's over 3 years, so long as you don't go over that threshold. And I think we might be borderline, but we'll be okay. I don't think there's going to be anything to investigate with us. Hammerette, don't worry, still we love you. Yeah, but I really was angry earlier on, Hammerette. Good evening, Ironclad. I wanted to travel down for Thursday's game, but the West Ham site says tickets only sell to... No, mate. Look at this. Try again, because look, on sale now. That looks to me that they're on general sale. It doesn't say on general sale, but have a look at the website, the ticketing site, and see if you can get them. I think you might be okay. You might be able to buy them, mate. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Ian Garden. How are you, mate? Thank you, mate. Thank you very much. Robbed up a point. We absolutely were, although I'm not sure we deserved one. DM needs to be more positive with the team selection, and tactics absolutely have to change and fast. The new Marseille. Good evening, Scarborough. Did you hear Graham? I did. I mean, the only person that seemed to disagree that the VAR was wrong was Souness, the ref, the guy who was watching VAR, and Tuchel. Fuck that. Ironclad. At the weekend, wasn't Oliver the first ref not to overturn his decision after going to... He was. And I hope more refs take note of that, because it's not wrong to keep your first decision. Even if you go and watch the screen, you don't have to change your decision. Dan, VAR should simply be used for offsides, and if the ball goes out of play, the stuff that's cut and dry. Everything else, officials will have a different view to one another. It's a flawed system. Good point. Michael, what I've seen of VAR on the continent, it's quick. The majority of people think it comes away with the right decision. It seems only our officials are inept at it. And did you know, by the way, we're the only country that doesn't have any officials at the World Cup? I don't know if this is true, but I read somewhere today that they think that we don't have the level that is expected of a World Cup for any of our officials to officiate at. How embarrassing is that? How embarrassing is that? Hammerhead, Diego Costa is back in there. Who's he? I read it very briefly. Who's he signed for? Nottingham Forest, maybe? Richard, Stell, found you. Thank you, mate. I was beginning to think you've been relegated to the suspension. Well, I'm glad you found me again, Richard. I hope you're well. Thank you. Much appreciated. Jerry. By the way, like, subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button and the like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on mute. Jerry, listening from my hospital bed. Had my kidney stones sorted. I hope shows my medication. Mate, wish you all the best. Seriously, wish you all the best. Hope you get better soon, mate. Seriously. Pat Holland, what is the use of spending millions on attacking players if we use them in our own half? Going to talk about our tactics in a little while. Ironclad. Dermot Gallagher says the VAR replay was the same angle the ref had seen, so cannot understand what the ref saw on the screen to change his mind. Someone must have been saying to him in his ear, it's a foul, it's a foul. I didn't think that VAR officials are meant to say to you, if they think that you need to go to the screen, but that's about as far as they should go. I bet you the fucker was in his ear telling him it's a foul. Watch it again, it's a foul. Outrageous. Daniela, like I said on the other show, I can't believe that still Chelsea fans still... Well, not a lot do. I think they're just being a little bit fickle if they're pretending that was a foul. Vino, Haller had to go because Moyes didn't know how to use him. I sometimes wonder how Moyes had a career as a manager before he met Antonio. Good evening, James. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Steve, did you listen to Souness came out with that Bowen's right foot that caught the keeper? I know. It's absolutely ridiculous. Cockney Buccaneer, evening all. If VAR stops effing around, we'll be okay by Christmas. Acid joke, something's got to be done. I've got some idea. I mean, things that you've heard about already, but when I get to it in a little while, we'll talk them through. Still pissed me off with Mendy, his teammates who pretended he was injured, the medical staff who played along, and the manager who defended VAR. Absolutely, it was a sham, absolute sham. Good evening to you. We were well robbed. Everyone thinks the same, mate. Andrew, hope you're well. Andrew, another Andrew. Graham Souness doesn't agree still. They think Bowens went into hurt men. How dare he? How dare he? Graham Souness, the man who talks about, it's not a proper contact sport anymore. Do you remember the things he said in the past? It's not the way we used to play it, etc., etc. It's not contact. And now he's suggesting that that Bowen went into hurt. How dare he? Vinay. Mendy wanted to be a Shakespearean actor as a boy, but he fell into football. It's that stub which I see before. Who else have we got? I'm going to scroll down because I'm already beginning to run late with keeping up to your comments. VAR saw nothing clear and obvious. Just couldn't allow Chelsea to lose 3 games in a row because it wouldn't be good for their European spot. See, this is the thing. Some of the VAR decisions have gone in favor of some of the bigger teams, and I've got a list of them later on. And you can't help but feel that it is corrupt. You cannot. That's the last thing you want to think as a fan. The last thing you want to think is that it's actually corrupt. And yet, certain decisions go, and you sit back and you go, "Hang on a minute. That went for Chelsea. That one went for Liverpool. That one went for Man City. That one went." And then you can't sit back and you go, "Surely to God, no." But you can't help but feel it's corrupt, can you? David, he knew full well that he palmed the ball to a West Ham player was in trouble. Slice the touches, the crowd foul. So frustrating, diving and cheating. And he did cheat. Let's be honest, he actually did cheat. That was one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is the Super Six is up and running. Only the other 14 teams are cash-paying friendlies. Oh, yeah. Andrew, security was a joke. I went straight through with a rucksack, had it open for inspection, but the stewards asked if I had alcohol. I said no, and he let me walk through without checking. Mate, honestly, our queue wasn't like that at all. Let's scroll down. Michael, ticketing fiasco upon ticketing fiasco. Welcome to the 21st century. All your problems will be solved with technology. Peter, still regarding the tickets, the problem may be the amount of staff to implement the systems have put in place, not enough. Well, the trouble is, though, Peter, getting through the turnstiles, you can see the stewards standing the other side inside the stadium watching. So what they're looking for are the lights above to see if someone comes through with a concessionary ticket, so they'll stop them. But they all stand there and watch. So if someone's got a problem getting through the turnstiles, there's no one there to help them. You're shouting to them going, we need hand here. And they're like, well, who gives a shit? And there's one guy that walks along the turn in between all the turnstiles trying to sort 20 people out at the same time. Ridiculous. Hammerette, bloody cheek. Not yet. Can't wait to get that. Who else we got? Vinay. No need to worry about financial fair play, police. Just tell them we have a tight Glaswegian manager. That will be enough. Danny Morgan. Evening to you, mate. Loving it. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Start with thank you again. Do you reckon we have what it takes to get to top six with Moyes and this squad? Yes, I do. But we need to start doing it quick because we kind of fallen off the pace quite rapidly. But let's not forget, last season, if you think about last season, we started off really well and we kind of ended up, we ended up in a bit of a damp squib, where we weren't winning games. So that can be reversed. My feeling is that we're going to get into a run of games. And when we get into a run of games, we're going to probably do really, really well and shoot up that table. Sixth place. It'll be a tall order, but like I said, maybe last week, if we win a trophy this season and finish, mid-table, I'd be happy with that as well. My preference, obviously, is that we do finish higher up. But I think we can. We just need to start going on a bit of a run. Victor, I know results are not really important at academy level, but since Mark Robson took over, have the wheels fallen off? They haven't quite, because when he took over, they were still doing really well, but the beginning of this season has been quite abysmal. I was meant to do that, wasn't I? And then I got into your comments. Mark, good evening to you. Anyone see that Plonker Soonest? Yes, about the disallowed goal, saying it was correct. Idiot. Let's be honest. Bit stupid of him. Who else we've got? English Yardie. The right-hand side of the pitch, Bowen and Soufal, to me, is not working. Soufal, to be honest, makes me nervy. Soufal passes always seem to get blocked. He had a better game. Ironically, I think it's Bowen that's not on form at the moment. Soufal's kind of grown into the season. Declan has as well. Bowen is the last one. He's picking up. He seems to finish rather well. Against Spurs, he kind of seemed to do quite well, and against Chelsea in the latter stages as well. But he hasn't been quite at it for 90 minutes all round. Richard, if VAR is not corrupt, then it's incompetent at best. Well, definitely is that without a shadow of a doubt. I'll tell you what, let's stop there because I'm going to do the academy. Right, let's do that again, shall we? I'm not going to get involved in your chat, otherwise I'm going to forget where I am. So the academy, look, we had a bit of a respite from the league, the under-21s last week, where we competed in the Papa John's Trophy, where we played Walsall, and we won. We beat them 1-0 after not doing so well, starting so well in the Premier League too. We got a respite. Keenan Forsan came back into the starting lineup, and he's a crafty little footballer. Really, really, I like him immensely. The same rest of the team, more or less the same. Mbama was there, but he got sent off. And he didn't get sent off for this game. Got sent off in the league. But we did well. We ground out a result, and it was really, really important to do so. And we thought that that might be the start of the under-21s, getting back into the swing of it in the league. But then they met Man City, and there were a couple of changes forced on David Mbama, as I said, serving a 3-game ban because he got sent off in the last league game. Freddie Potts didn't make the game, so in came Remy Connington for his first start of the season and Archie Woods, and we got spanked 4-1. Not good. So far, we have played all the games that we played in the under-21s league. We've lost every single one of them. 5 games we've lost already, and that's not a great start for the under-21s. And something is going wrong. A suggestion, is it Mark Robson or not? I don't quite know. I think now that they've changed it from the under-23s to the under-21s, it means there's a number of players that obviously can't play. And I also said a couple of weeks ago, selling Ajibola Olise, I know he was primarily in the senior squad on the bench, but he was still playing for the under-23s at the time. He was an immense figure for the bit like Mark Noble, the equivalent version of Mark Noble for the under-23s as it was back then last season. And I think he's a big loss, a massive loss indeed. And there's other players, a number of players that, like I said already, have gone out on loan. And I think that's hindering them. It's quite a young team. They're still quite kind of learning. But it's not been easy for them so far. But the under-18s, completely different kettle of fish. The under-18s last week, they beat Fulham in the league. And then they met them in the Premier League Cup at the weekend. And they smashed them again 4-2. And Callum Marshall... I know I shouldn't, but I will. I'm going to sing his praises. Callum Marshall got another hat-trick, his second hat-trick of the season. He scored 9 goals already. All right, I know it's only the under-18s, but you still got to do it, and he's immense. And you know what's going to happen, don't you? I'm saying he's immense. He's going to be the next big thing, etc., and then we'll end up selling him or sending him out on loan to, I don't know, Port Vale or somewhere like that. But well done to the under-18s. They're doing really, really well. Now, I talked about a number of academy players out on loan, and I did do a show on this. If you go to the back catalogue to have a look at it in full, but I'm going to skim this over. In the Championship, we've got 2 players on loan there, Armstrong Okoflex and Emmanuel Longello. Longello hasn't started yet, but Okoflex came on for Swansea as a sub in the 1-0 win over QPR at the weekend. So well done to him. And also in League One, we've got a couple of loans where we've got Joseph Anang, who's gone out on loan to Derby, and Mipo Odibeko, who's out on loan to, Port Vale. But great for him because he scored his first goal. It didn't result in a win, but they played Cheltenham Town, and he started and scoring a goal. I think that can only bode well for him. So well done to him. In League Two, we have a couple of loan signings there. Dan Chesters is out on loan to Colchester. And he came on as a second half sub at the weekend in the 1-1 draw against Hartlepool. And Thierry Neves has gone out on loan to Newport County. And he started really well in 3 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist already. So well done to them as well. We've got a couple of other players out on loan in other leagues. Nathan Trott is on loan in Denmark for Team Vejle, and he played in the cup competition for them at the weekend. Where they beat Marienlyst 3-0. So he did, he's their cup goalie, but at least he's got game time and he kept a clean sheet as well. Jacob McKnight is out on loan at Harrow Borough. And they were playing Bracknell Town in an FA Cup first qualifying round. And he got sent off and they lost 4-1. So, mate, I bet that's a lesson to be learnt. Now, there is another player, under 23s, who you may or may not remember. Giancarlo Cardoso. Anyone remember him? He was signed in the Pellegrini era from Boa Vista in 2019. And at the time, I remember we needed centre-backs at the time. And he was quoted as being Premier League ready. And we never saw a sign of him. Nothing. He came, he went out on loan to teams like Basel and Real Betis, Pellegrini's current club. Didn't do so well there, and we've just sold him for it was the actual last sale of the January of the transfer window. There you go. There's another 3 million on top, which I forgot about. We sold him for £3 million to Portuguese side Maritimo. So he's gone back to where he started in the Portuguese league. We wish you well. No one ever saw how you played, but good luck to you, mate. Right, there is one more player, of course, in the under-23s that we've got to talk about. And there was an awful lot of talk about him at the end of on the last day of the transfer window. And that, of course, was Harrison Ashby. Now, there's a lot of rumor about, Ashby. He was about to sign for Newcastle for a fee of around £2.5 million, but David Moyes stopped it at the last minute because, as people are saying, he couldn't get a replacement for him. So he decided to keep him. Well, if that's the story, if that is the story, then what we need to do is not allow Ashby to go in the same way as Sonny Perkins did. We've got to find a way to convince this young man that his future is at West Ham United. Look, 20 years of age. He started at West Ham from the age of 10. He made his debut in senior football under David Moyes in 2020 in a 3-0 win over Charlton in the Carabao Cup. And he made his Premier League debut in December 21 in the defeat against Arsenal. He's also represented Scotland up to under 21 level. And he really is a modern day, you've seen him play. He really is a modern day right wing back. Decent player. We need to find a way. If we've kept him now, we need to make sure that he's at the last year of his contract. The last thing we want is for yet another decent young player to actually walk away. Now, I think Harrison Ashby, I've said this already about Sonny Perkins. I didn't think Sonny Perkins was necessarily Premier League ready. It looks like he thought and his agent thought he was. But the difference is I think Ashby is kind of near as damn it. People are talking about Soufal. I can see this young man being the heir successor to Soufal. Maybe Johnson and Ashby competing for that right back spot. He's a very decent player. And I think we're going to probably see him start on Thursday night against Steaua Bucharest. And if he does, I hope he does well. But we've got to find a way to keep him. We've got to find a way to convince him that his future lies at West Ham United. Right, Arthur, dear old Arthur. He's doing really well at the Turkish side, Besiktas, or wherever you call it. He was in the team that beats MKE Ankaragucu 3-2 at the weekend. He was in the same side as Dele Alli. Can't have it all, can you? Dele Alli gave them a 2-1 lead, etc. So well done, not to Dele Alli, but well done to Arthur. We wish you well. It's all going well for him. And let's hope Besiktas sign that permanent deal for him anytime soon. Right, Gianluca Scamacca. He was unwell to play in the last 2 games, but he's back in training and he should be fit enough for the game against Steaua Bucharest this coming Thursday. Who else have we got? Creswell. He's also returning. He's got a slight groin injury, but he should be available for Thursday as well. He probably won't start, though. We'll probably see him play against Newcastle at the weekend. Ben Johnson, he's out with a hamstring injury till we think about mid-October. So we wish him well and a speedy recovery. Craig Dawson's back as well. Craig Dawson's back in training. He wasn't quite ready to play against Chelsea at the weekend, but we believe he will be available for the game against Steaua if he wants to get if Moyes wants to give him some game time. But if that's not going to happen, then he might only be another couple of weeks away from coming back into action. And then the only long-term injury, of course, is Naif Gerd. No change there. We still don't know whether he's going to be back just before or just after the World Cup. Right. A few more comments, and then we're going to go into the games, and then we're going to go into VAR in a little bit more depth. So, Chris, thank God Arsenal got beat. They were getting too deluded. Eriksen looks good. United paid him £12 million signing on fee. Yeah, it takes time, doesn't it? It takes time for players to settle in. Look how badly Man United started. Schmeichel, they should introduce rules like in the NFL where managers can challenge the official decisions. David M, before it used to either suspend refs or demote to the lower leagues. Madley, as far as I know, is still ref at Wolves, Liverpool. Awful. Shouldn't be. Rob J, good evening to you. Personally, I now wish the top 6 would just F off, join the Super League and leave. Do you know what? I won't lie to you, Rob. I would agree with that. If that's what they really want, just leave them to it. Let them go and fight it out amongst themselves and make the Premier League a proper competitive league where we're all on a par. you know, and then how much more special would it be when you win that league without this lot around? Mind you, who's the top 6? You're not including Spurs in that, I hope, mate. Ian, I think Soon is on a rescue mission after his recent alleged sexist remark, which were totally out of context. I don't care about him. Daniela, everyone now stating that 2 games a week was already being doing that for the last 3 weeks. If you think about it, what? I'm not worried about that. We've got a squad to manage 2 games a week with ease. Vino, I need to unleash Benny and Cornet, stop playing out of form players, change tactics, use Skamaka and Paqueta, start Areola, use Antonio as super sub, be creative, then there is a chance for top 6. Good points. Would you include Bowen in that, in being on the bench for now? I'm not talking about permanently, because he's not on form at the moment, is he? Chris, all the defense. Good evening to you, mate. All the defenders were ball watching. What does Souček and Rice do all game long? They've never put in strong tackles when needed. Let's get on to the game in a minute, mate. Let's get on to that game. Good evening, Mandy. If we lose the next 3, is Moyes in danger of getting sacked? No, is my understanding. I have a little chat group with other people outside and people who know people and all that sort of stuff. And that question was asked, you know, how long before Moyes is in real trouble? I think Moyes will be in real trouble if we get to the World Cup and we're still languishing. So that's not 3 games. That's several more games to come. If we're still near the bottom, we're beginning to look like we're fighting a relegation scrap by the time we get to the World Cup. You might then see a bit of anxiety. But as it stands right now, no. There's talk about there not being any chance of Moyes being in any trouble. Adam, win the Conference League and top 10 gets us European football and a trophy. That's a good season after our start. Agreed. Ironclad. Stell, just been on the site, can pick a seat anywhere. Think the ground's going to be quite empty. I don't think it'll be empty, but there are tickets available. So get down there for Thursday. I tell you what, Hammerette will attest to this. Thursday nights under the lights, Cup, European competition, etc. It's something quite special. All right, they're not the biggest team in the world, Steaua Bucharest, anymore. I know they live on past glories, etc. But we've got Steaua, we've got Anderlecht coming up, Silkeborg, etc. Do it. You'll love it. You will absolutely love it. If you can get a ticket for a tenner, I think that was advertised earlier on. It's absolutely worthwhile. Let's scroll down. Victor. Vinay. Talking to Vinay. What did Vinay say? Vinay said, Mandy, lose 3x3. I don't think he is. Hammer it. After the investigation, where officials will learn from the mistakes against us and Newcastle, both Madley and the VAR prick are officiating this weekend. Lesson learned. Not good, eh? Rob, what position you playing? Who? Oh, Hammerette. What position you playing, Hammerette? Let's scroll down. Victor. Moyes will be in charge this season. You don't give a manager 160 million and sack him. I don't think he's in trouble. And do you know what? I've seen, I don't want to pick on other channels or anything like that. I've seen a couple of channels quite unsavory about the way that they're talking about Moyes at the moment. He picked a team, I think it was against Spurs, and someone called him the C word. And then we lost against Chelsea, most controversially. And someone, I don't know if it was the same channel or not, someone said, Moyes F off. Really? After the couple of seasons he's given us, I think he deserves a little bit of time. I think I've been saying buying 8 players in one season, that's a transition season for a lot of clubs. It's going to take time. And I know we get frustrated when Moyes picks quite a defensive looking team, defensive looking tactics, etc. But I think it takes time and I think we'll come good. And you're right, Victor. You're not going to give him 160 million and tell him to go. David, is this my imagination or the boss telling the players to take it easy, then give it 100% in the second half? It did look that way against Spurs and it did look that way against Chelsea, David, I have to admit. West Ham seemed to be better second half. I think what Moyes does is he analyses it, overanalyzes it, then probably tells them, right, this is what we should do in the second half. But what he should be doing is changing it during the game. So, yeah, we do look better in the second half. Chris, honestly, I see a lot of boys and mate traits in Arteta. Very poor in game manner. Yeah, there you go. So he probably waits till half time and then he gives them new instructions. But it'd be good to sort of do that in game. You're absolutely right. Michael Charlton, when teams lose points because of inept officials, they bring the game into disrepute. Absolutely agree. Let's scroll down a little bit. I'm going to miss out a few comments. So I do apologise for that. Andrew, Newcastle got to be a really difficult game, and with no home wins as of yet, the pressure is building. Moyes needs to address this slide quickly, or it could soon be under pressure. Let me go back to what I said earlier on. Okay, we played 6 games. I only think we played poorly in 2. I think we played poorly against Man City, and we played poorly against Brighton. If you guys think otherwise, do let me know. I'd really be interested to know. I think we've only played poorly in 2 of the 6 games. Like I said, on any other given day against Nottingham Forest, we would have smashed 4 past them. Against Villa, we got the points that we deserve. We got a good win from there. Against Spurs, we were unlucky not to win that in the end. Against Chelsea, we got cheated of a point. So when you start thinking about it in that context, you got to say to yourself, surely there's no slide. I didn't like Moyes. The other tactic I didn't like. I'm already on to the review. But the other tactic I didn't like is we were kind of bypassing the midfield with the long balls from the back. But I'll talk about that later. Chris, should have made a bid for some of those Brentford midfielders. They look solid. Yeah, well, they're tough, hard work. They're a hard-working team, aren't they? I think we've got a hard-working team. I think it's going to take time. I think the patience is, we've got to be patient. Daniela, Ashley Kemp, not sure about the Ashley Man United fans are giving large. Now think back. Think they're back. Oh, they think they're back, do they? Well, good on them. I think they've got a long way to go like we have. Alan, when will we be emailed our Thursday night tickets? Talked about that a bit earlier, mate. Check your emails now. Check also your junk box, your junk email box, and see if they're in there because they started going out today. Jerry, Moyes deserves a lot longer to get his players to gel. I think the same. Good evening, Keith. How are you? Still fuming about. We all are, mate. These referees have got to have an agenda. I've never known a mass refereeing screw ups. This is why I said it earlier on, mate. That's why a lot of us, stupidly in a way, think there's corruption. I know I put it in the title, but it was more clickbait more than anything else. But, a lot of us can't help think that. But I'm going to run through the list of mistakes made. The most prominent ones at the weekend. Richard, I would give Moyes up until the World Cup break. Then if no change in results, I will seriously consider a change. But who would come in? Pochettino. He's still available, unless I'm wrong. Schmiegel, kind of feel bad for Cardoso. Never got given a chance. I totally forgot he was still at the club. Yeah, weird one, wasn't it? David M. I'm quite about Euro tickets. Within a few hours, I got the email. You will get. There you go. So go buy. And then when you see me, mine's a double spice rum and coke. Thank you. Okay. They don't have an investigation. They have a collective meeting to discuss damage limitation and maybe how to improve. Something different needs to happen. Just a meeting and say we're going to learn from our mistakes, and then the next mistake coming up. What mistakes? David M. Will Ashby play this? I'm pretty certain he will. I reckon he'll. I think if you think about it, Soufal will be on the bench. He'll be back up. Johnson is injured, so I think Ashby will get his opportunity. Or at the very least, if Soufal starts, then Ashby will come on at some point. Ashby looks promising. Absolutely epic. We can't keep youngsters unless we sack Moyes. The kids are not stupid. They know Moyes will never trust them. I know there's a lot of talk about that. And I know that's one of the reasons apparently why Sonny Perkins left. It's a tough one. I think, it's a tough one. I think Moyes will give players game time. I think he'll do it in a manner that won't suit them, but will suit what he thinks is right for them and what right for the team. Ashby, I think, will break through. And Connor Coventry, he's been retained. He hasn't been sold. He hasn't been moved on. Connor Coventry's still with us as well. Vinay, Moyes blocked Kral's exit in January. Not sure how his mind worked. Is he a player holder? I don't quite get that. I think that was one of the strangest decisions, to be honest with you. Good evening, Chris Bates. I'm new here. I'm still angry about the decision, but happy they recognise the mistake. Hopefully now they can actually find the problem of them looking to not give goals, I reckon, a set amount of time. Yeah, that's one of the options that we're going to talk about. Thank you for finding this channel, by the way. And if you are new, please hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification. Really appreciate that. Jerry, I think that the referee was arrogant and his chickens have come home to roost. It looked really, really strange, didn't it? It looked really odd that he gave the goal and then he changed his mind. And why was he asked to go and look at VAR? And what did he see any differently? Review of VAR and decisions. Yeah. Adrian, good evening to you. See you Thursday. Absolutely. If you see me, you know what my drink is now. English Yardie. Ashby needs to play. Doesn't Soufal contract end next year? Soufal's 2024. Yeah. Ashby to me is is better than Soufal. Chris Biggs. What are we up to? 10:30. I'm running late. Moyes is a strange manager. Brought Cornet in on the 86th minute. Speak about stuff. That also, yeah, okay. Keith, again, I genuinely don't know where they recruit these new referees from. They seem to have zero grasp of either the game or the laws of the game. It is a bit odd. He's quite a young referee, isn't he? Ian, totally agree. The only way to convince Ashby is to give him a chance by starting him on Thursday. Peter, Dawson back after the World Cup at this rate. Dawson will be back soon. He is training again, and they're talking about whether it's too early for him to come back on Thursday. And I don't think he'll play against Newcastle, so it might be that he'll play the following week in the Europa Conference. Chris, we need a new right back. Zuma is too sluggish. Tilo doing all the recovery work, dragging the team back. I think Zuma had a better game against Chelsea at the weekend, to be quite honest. I think he did. I think he wasn't still not 100% there, but I think he had a much better game. Schmiegel, maybe Skamaka is scamming us. He's not scamming us. He's brilliant. He will be brilliant. He'll score more goals than Haaland. Who said that? When needed. Good evening to you. You spend more than Man United and still doing... All right, mate. Calm down. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. You boost my numbers. But we're all polite to each other here, even if you are from another team. And you're more than welcome, so long as you engage properly. Who else have we got here? Back to Chris. What about a cost cap like Formula One to level the playing field? Well, I quite like the options that they have. I wonder if they still do it in American football, where the team that finish at the bottom get the first choice of the best college players. I think they used to do that. I don't know if they still do. Maybe we should have that. You know, a team that finished near the bottom is gets Mbappe for £5 million or something like that. Vinay, Bone on the bench for now. It might benefit him coming on the last 20. He's not quite there, is he, at the moment? Alan, is Dawson fit to play against Newcastle? Just answered that, mate. I don't think he might. It might be a bit too soon for him. I think what Moyes will do, he'll start him in the conference, Europa Conference. If not this Thursday, then maybe the Thursday after. David, I agree with you, Rob J. Get rid of the big greedy six and let the other 14 teams fight amongst ourselves. More competitive. Do you know what? I would enjoy my football much more. You know, I really would. You know, because when you do get all the biased decisions going against you, etc., it doesn't make for one. So many people have written on social media this weekend, that's it for me. Football's over for me. It's no longer the sport I enjoy. It's everything about money is killing it, etc. And I get it. I get how disappointing it must be. Chris, in Spud's brains, they think they're top six because of a debt-laden stadium. They're just closer to us than to even Arsenal and City. Also, they're in there just about there because of their league titles. Good evening, teachers. Zdenek, how are you? Arsenal will rob just as much as West Ham. Martinelli's goal should have stood in the same way as Cornet's. I didn't see much difference there, except you were left with little time to respond. Yeah, good point. Excuse me. I hope you're well, Zdenek. Haven't seen you for quite a while. Learn to dig. Good evening to you. These players can't turn it on and off at will. You saw what happened last year. 10th and a cup is a pipe dream. I don't think so, mate. I actually really don't think so that 10th and a cup is a pipe dream. No, I'm sorry. I'm not. I can't be that. I can't be that down on the team. Not yet, anyway. Andrew, let the top six go and bring in Rangers and Celtic to join the league. That would be exciting. Oh, good shout. I like that. Yeah, I like that. That sounds good. Good evening to you, Will X. I can see some pretty VAR chants by the fans on Sunday against Newcastle. Who else have we got here? Astrofos, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Indefinite. Good evening to you. Chelsea fan here. If we're going to say fair is fair with VAR, then call out Antonio's hook on Thiago's neck for his second yellow that VAR did not call. He then went on to go and score your first goal. Mate, in all honesty, I hear that, but I don't think it was that bad. You know, and that's not me being just a West Ham fan. I think that's me just looking at it. What about Reece James, who studied Antonio? And normally you'd get sent off for that. So I don't know, mate. I think, honestly, as a Chelsea fan, be really, really honest. Did you honestly think that the corner goal should have been disallowed? Be honest, not biased, but be honest. Tell me what you think. Ironclad. Still, it's 260-mile round trip. By the time I get out of Westfield car park, I won't be home till 2 a.m. We'll decide tomorrow. Be worth it. Go on. Get home at 3 a.m. and have a beer with us as well. Stenik. Not in the context of how the ref was officiating the game. He stood there for 1 minute in front of the screen. No way was that a clear and obvious error. It was super soft. Absolutely. Who you responded to? You responded to Chris. Chris said, corner goal. Yes. Martinelli, no. Ericsson got fouled. I didn't see it, so I can't. I don't know about that one. Who else have we got? Ahmed, good evening to you. Spurs first half was not good. Chelsea first half did nothing. We lacked ambition and sat back. Then the second half, we went defensive and allowed them to attack. In the second half against Chelsea, I thought we were more attack-minded. Was I wrong? Indefinite again. What about two? Yeah, I've asked you a question. So give me an answer on what you think, whether it should have been a goal for Cornet or not. Good evening, De La Cavi. How are you? Bit late, miss much? Not really, mate. I started late. I started at 9:45 because the first attempt completely screwed up. Good evening, Ryan Porteous. How are you? We have had a tough start when you look at the league. Played 5 of the current top 6. Yeah, little not. I'll give you that. David, I know which channel you're talking about. I think to myself, David Moyes gave us 2 European experiences. The way he spoke about Moyes was disrespectful. I won't look into their content. I can't remember it, but I saw the titles and I was shocked. I was shocked, to be honest. Andrew. Areola for Fabianski, Cornet for Bowen, Scamacca for Antonio, freshen it up for Newcastle. Well, yeah, you know what? I'd go with all 3 of those, to be quite honest with you. Scamacca would have taken some part in some of the games last week if he'd been fit, if he wasn't ill. I think Areola's got better distribution than Fabianski. I think quite a lot of people want Areola to start. Dan, if we had changed manager, going Potter's the man to throw everything at. You know what, mate? I'm not. I don't know. Maybe. Beats. Good evening to you. Have I missed something? Why is Moyes' job even been spoken about after the last 2 seasons? Not from me. Absolutely not from me. But there are people that are talking about Moyes out. They really are. Chris, I kept telling folks Rodgers was dragging down Leicester. Now they're stuck in a rut. He won't quit and the board won't fire him. What has happened there? Good evening to you, Jason. How are you, mates? If you want proof if the ref theory is a fact, look at the VAR decisions over a season and which teams they favour. Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm going to give you this one indefinite. You still haven't answered my question. Second yellow friend that you talked about that. I doubt you would have scored with 10 men on the field. You should have had 10 men on the field with Reece James studying Antonio. He got away with that. I'm just calling it fair. You want to say you were cheated. I think, honestly, mate, to be honest with you, no disrespect. You have your view, and I think we all respect that. But with the greatest of respect, we were cheated that game, without a doubt. Everybody has come out and said that there was no reason for that goal not to be allowed, shouldn't have been disallowed. What about Reece? Are you talking about 10 men? Reece James should have been sent off as well. He studied Antonio. So tell me about that. CC, good evening to you. Moyes knows we're not ready to go toe-to-toe with certain teams, which is why we shut up shop for large parts of the game, pick our times to attack, try to pick them off. Does frustrate people, though. English Yardie, the next 2 weeks will be busy for us. 2 important Premier League games. We need the points for the matches, for the 2 Premier League matches. Bowen, Soufal, Fab should be changed. A lot of people are saying much the same. David Anson versus Spuds. We were poor in the first half. He picked the wrong teams. That's true. He picked the wrong formation for that first half. We played well in the second half, but Moyes must use the new players properly in the right positions and get Areola in. Okay, tell you what I'm going to do because we're talking about the games. Let's go into doing the review of the 2 games, shall we? So let's start with Spurs last week. It was a night under the lights. It was really buzzing. It was really good. Good atmosphere around, etc. But you're absolutely right. For those people who have already called it, you're absolutely right. David Moyes with his tactics in the first half. He did try to contain the team, and it didn't work. It was the wrong choice. This was his starting 11 against Spurs. Fabianski, Soufal, Kera, who I think is doing exceptionally well. Zuma, Creswell and Rice, Souček, Bowen, Fornals, Benrahma and Antonio. And a lot of people were going, where's the new players? Where's the new player? Look, there's got to be a reason why Cornet is yet to start. Some people are saying he didn't have a proper pre-season, and that might be one of the reasons. I think that's a little bit lame because I think Cornet, having played a season already for Burnley, I think he would have been at least decent for at least half a game, if nothing else. So I was really surprised that Cornet didn't get much more game time. Paqueta new, so you knew he wasn't going to start straight away. And the only other players that we had there are Areola. Kera started, and many say, well, Kera started only because he had to. He had no choice because we haven't got a number of enough centre-backs, etc. But you know what? The first half, absolutely, it was right. We had the wrong choices, wrong decisions were made playing 5 at the back. It really didn't give us any impetus, any output. But credit to David Moyes, he made changes. He actually made changes in the second half. Look, some incidents in the game. And when we talk about VAR, a lot of people are going to start talking about, well, if you're complaining about the VAR you didn't get, what about the VAR that went your way? This is what VAR is for. This was a clear error. A penalty was given, it was reviewed, and then it was seen. Harry Kane headed the ball. Look how close Creswell is to Kane. It rebounded. It didn't even head it. It just hit off Creswell's head and hit his arm. That's not intent. That's not intentional. And VAR in that respect was absolutely correct. This isn't a West Ham fan going, oh, it's fair when it goes for us and it's not fair when it doesn't. It's about, it's about context here. And in this particular instance, and there's been a change, by the way, in the handball rule as well. Whereas in the past, if it hits your hand, it hits your hand regardless, and it was a penalty. What's changed now is intent. There's no way that Creswell, he didn't even know where the ball was going. It was not that he headed it down to his arm. It hit him off his head and it hit his arm. And it was rightly called off. It was rightly pronounced as not a penalty. Look, but they soon scored after that anyway. But and we struggled. We absolutely struggled. And then we got the impetus that we needed, the boost that we needed in the second half when Paqueta came on for Benrahma. Now, if there's something about Moyes that will frustrate me, to be quite honest with you, it's Moyes does keep hold of his favourites. Bowen wasn't having a good game. Bowen was the one I think that should have been taken off for Paqueta rather than Benrahma. And I feel sorry for Benny because I think it's going to be like this throughout the season where he's the one that's going to suffer more than any other player throughout the season. And I think that's a little bit unjust. I think if the players that you've got are not doing the business, Bowen at the moment isn't quite firing, then he needs to be subbed or he needs to be benched and other players playing. Benny has been our best player so far, attacking player so far this season. Look, what did we learn from this? Well, we learned that the 5 at the back system certainly didn't work. We got back into the game. I think it was a well taken goal. The way Antonio flicked it to Souček running into the box late and him whacking it. It was a well-deserved. It was a much better performance, as people have already suggested. A much better performance in the second half than it was in the first half. So it kind of taught us, don't play 5 at the back, because it nullifies our attack. And Moyes, at least credit to him, made changes. He changed the formation, etc. He did what in order to get us back into the game. He did the things that we were hoping for. And then we kind of moved to the Chelsea game. And look, it was great. He brought Paqueta in. How many of you excuse me? How many of you thought that Paqueta would have started that game? I genuinely thought David Moyes would do what David Moyes does, and he would have him on the bench and bring him on later in the second half. All credit to him. He started him, and also Kera started. And all right, we had another change in Creswell, who was injured. So Emerson started as well. So we had, of our 8 new signings, we had 3 players on the pitch there, new signings. And then we had Cornet, we had Downs, and we had Areola on the pitch as well. So the only one that was missing, of course, is the one that's injured, which is a Gerd. So they're involved. They are involved. I think everyone wants all the new players to be starting. You can't do that. You've got to pick your moments. Now, again, the frustrating thing for me, to be honest with you, is that Cornet didn't start and Bowen did. I've got nothing against Bowen. I love Bowen. I think he's been one of our best players for the last couple of seasons, but he's just not on fire at the moment. Look, we played a 4-1-4-1 system, again, kind of trying to contain them. Fornal's playing out left and so on. If you want a left-sided player, play Cornet. Cornet would have done just as well, if not better, if he'd started. Fornals is another favourite. Fornals is a really good player, but maybe if you need Fornals involved, then put Fornals in the middle, and as I said, maybe drop Bowen. Look, it was the first half, nothing to write home about. It was kind of a boring first half. It's the second half that everything sort of broke loose and the game sort of came alive. And there were some dodgy tackling going on, but dodgy tackling from both teams. And like I said, Reece James was lucky to stay on the pitch. You know what? Indefinite. I honestly didn't see the foul that you're saying happened for Antonio. And again, that's not a West Ham fan going, "Oh well, I'm being biased." I genuinely didn't see it, but I'll take your word for it that happens. Still, we went a goal up, and that, we should have gone for the jugular then, but we kind of tried to contain them more. We kind of held back and we tried to contain them, and that was the frustrating thing. But the biggest frustration for me was more about booting the ball up, sort of bypassing midfield and just whacking the ball from the back all the way through to completely bypassing Paqueta that was there, etc. He kind of enjoyed that game, to be quite honest with you. He did. Moyes did bypass the tactics that he used, went from the goalie straight up to Antonio. And this is the one thing that when we have Antonio playing, and this is not a dig at Antonio because he is the way he is, but when we have Antonio playing, Fabianski just looks for him. Get it up to Antonio. He'll hold it up, contain it, get other players involved. That weren't happening and that wasn't working. And that wasn't a tactic that I was enjoying seeing. And the irony is, when Antonio came off, we started to play on the ground because there wasn't that front man to target at. So we couldn't start pumping it up because we knew that we weren't going to get much of the ball if we did that. And a lot of people were saying, "Well, why have you brought Antonio off?" Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, "Oh, you don't want Antonio playing," and then when he takes him off, you do want Antonio playing. Look, if Scamacca would fit, I think Scamacca may have started the game against Chelsea at the weekend. So his tactics, David Moyes, they are frustrating. It is about containment. It very much is about, trying to contain the teams, trying to sort of hold them off. But you cannot do that for a full 90 minutes. And I think that's what frustrates a lot of the fans. We do have an attack-minded team now, but we should be playing it to their strengths. We shouldn't just be trying to bypass the midfield and trying to contain a team. So there's the frustration for me. I won't deny. I think the tactics of Moyes sometimes can be questioned, but you've got to also think about what's going on in Moyes' head. We've lost quite a number of games already this season. We're away from home against the top side. What Moyes didn't want to do is he didn't want to lose another game. And had it not been for VAR, we wouldn't have lost it. Right. Let's get on to VAR itself, shall we? Because that was the talk of the weekend. Because VAR, if it's used in the right way, I think many people will agree that VAR is a good tool to have. But it's when it's misused. The system itself is not wrong. It's the people that are managing it and applying it that are getting it wrong, and they're getting it wrong quite poorly. And I talked briefly about some of the other decisions at the weekend. There was a decision against against Villa. In the goal that they scored against Man City, that was chalked off. There was a poor decision for Newcastle against Palace when the Palace player pushed the attacking player into the goalie, and that was chalked off. There was the Leeds United decision against Brentford when we could see it was a clear penalty. The defender was all over the attacking player, not once but twice. That wasn't given either. Then there was the Liverpool decision, Virgil van Dijk's disgusting challenge on an Everton player, and that wasn't even reviewed. And then, of course, there was the Reece James incident against Antonio, where he studded him deliberately indefinite. He studded him deliberately, and both players got booked. And then, of course, our disallowed goal. What is it that that the referee saw that no one else saw? Mendy lost the ball. Mendy went down. He lost the ball. What was Bowen meant to do? Bowen's trying to go for the ball, and when he realised he wasn't going to get to it, he jumped over the player. And then they're talking about the training leg. Did the training leg really damage Mendy's arm and Mendy's shoulder that badly that he was writhing around for 5 minutes after the goal? Look, the PGMOL, the Professional Game Match Officials Limited, have since admitted that the decisions involving West Ham and Newcastle were incorrect and that they're talking about cooperating with the Premier League to review both incidents. What good is that now? You're going to review both incidents for, and what then? What's going to happen thereafter? You're not going to change the result. The result is the result. That's happened. So by all means, review it, learn from it, etc. As people have said, the referee is still going to ref this weekend, regardless. So what are they going to do? Look, Newcastle are apparently going to report. They're going to make an official complaint about the decision that was made. But where's that going to lead to? If that was going to lead to a reversal of the outcome of the game, you'd argue then it's probably worth them making a complaint, an official complaint. But if that's not going to reverse the decision, and there's no way that that decision is going to be reversed, it won't happen. Then what? I mean, what compensation will Newcastle get? And if they're successful with their official complaint, then West Ham should complain, and every other team that's been affected by VAR incorrectly should also complain. And then where does that go down? Look, a number of options have been made available. A number of people are talking about, well, we should have the same system as we have with rugby, with American football, where the referee has got to go on his microphone and tell the crowd why he's made a decision that he's made. Great, but that's not going to reverse that decision. The decision's still going to be there. So he's told everyone, we're all going to hear, well, you got it wrong, and we're going to boo it and all that. But that isn't going to reverse the decision. So I get it. Yeah, be open and honest about why you've made the decision. But again, that doesn't reverse that the whole idea about the change that's got to happen is when VAR is wrong, is when VAR has made an incorrect decision or has guided the referee to make an incorrect decision. You've got to be able to challenge it there and then and get that reversal at that point. It's no good just because the referee is going to tell the crowd, oh, this is the reason why I made that decision. So what? So you've told us you're still wrong, but you're still going to go ahead with that decision. Look, there's other options. Give managers the ability to dispute decisions, a bit like tennis, where I think you get three options per set or something like that, where you can sort of you can call for a VAR decision to be looked at again, and then, but not just the referee on his own, but needs to be someone else there to talk about the decision that's been made. Because again, a retrospective decision is no good to anybody. You can't change the outcome of a result. Can you imagine if that happened? All of a sudden, the FA say or the Premier League say, fair enough, if we got it wrong, we'll retrospectively change the result. My goodness, what a can of worms that will open up. So maybe that is one option where the manager of the team where the decision's gone against can dispute it as that at that moment in time and be given a number of decisions, reversals, options to be given, like maybe 3 per game or something like that. That might help. That might be something that will make maybe the referee can go back and look at it again. But he's got to go back in consultation. It's no good him going back and then speaking to the guy in the VAR box again, because they might still come to the same incorrect decision as they did the first time. But there's that option as well. The other option, of course, is to have the people that are looking at the VAR monitors. It's not just ex referees or whatever they are. Get people in, get a panel in, ex-footballers, ex-coaches, ex-managers, including ex-referees, etc. Have a panel, a mixed panel who are looking at the VAR decisions and discussing those between them. That might be, above everything else, the best option is have someone who's played the game. Have someone who has played the game to talk about it from a player's perspective. When someone goes, well, that was a foul, and then the player can say, well, hang on a minute, have a look at this, and so on, and maybe get a better decision outcome that way. And then, of course, the ultimate is get fucking rid of VAR. Just get rid of VAR. Isn't that probably the best? It won't happen because it's here to stay. Too much money's invested in it. But, the ultimate best decision possibly is just to get rid of it. It's a horrible, horrible process, a horrible system. It slows the game down. It ruins the enjoyment of the fans. 1 minute you're cheering, next minute you're not. Next minute you're cheering, next minute you're not. You don't know. A goal's in, and you sort of stand there going, "Shall I cheer this? I'm not sure if I should, because in a minute they'll take it away from us. Get rid of it." But for me, if they can't, then have that panel, have that mixed panel who are talking to each other, looking at VAR. Why is it, as people have alluded to in the chat, why is it that abroad they get it and there doesn't seem to be that much controversy over it? And this goes back again to the whole thing about the theory of there being an awful lot of corruption. Because you keep looking at VAR, you keep looking at the decisions that have been made, who they're made for, etc. And you cannot help but think there's something fishy going on. And when you look at the outcomes over the weekend, Liverpool getting decisions for them, Man City getting decisions for them, Chelsea getting decisions for them, etc. When you look at those, you start to think to yourself, even though you don't want to be that conspiracy theorist, you start to ask yourself, is this where it's going? Is it down to, a lot of, corruption? I don't want to use that word corruption. It feels sort of unjust. It feels unfair. It makes me feel like, I'm being a bit seedy about VAR. And I'm sure, when the decisions are made, they're made to the best of their ability, but not good enough. They need that different panel. They're not just ex-referees or whatever they are sitting there looking at the decision. You've got to have ex-players there. You've got to have ex-managers, ex-coaches or whatever. People who are involved in football, actually really involved in having either played the game or coached the game or managed the game or something like that. There goes my rant. That's me over. Let's finish off with your comments before we say goodnight for the weekend. The weekend. It's only Monday. What am I talking about? Chris, I'm still not convinced by Brighton. We make them look the prime Barcelona. Leicester made them look dangerous too. Yeah, I'm not so sure about them. They're doing all right, but let's see. Dynamite. I think good times around the corner. Keep the faith, you Irons. I totally agree. Shekel, good evening to you. Premier League refereeing has been abysmal. Absolutely agree. Hammerettes, the worst cheating I've seen in ages on Saturday at Stamford Bridge. It was awful. Darren, no point discussing this with any Chelsea fans. They're all deluded. Be nice. Be nice. Crosshammer. Indefinite. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me once, and guess what? It felt exactly the same as Mendy. Be nice. If he's still here, of course. Let's scroll down. See, you keep talking about these. I guess it made up for the 2 calls on Antonio. I'm sorry, mate, but I really honestly, not because you're Chelsea, but I honestly don't agree with you. Answer me whether you thought that the goal should have stood or not. Have you answered that? If you have answered it and I haven't seen it, I do apologize. Let's see. What have you said here? If we call it fair, it still ends up 2-1 because Cornet's goal was valid, but Antonio should not. So should Reece James, mate. Reece James should have been off the pitch as well. So I'm afraid, no, disagree. Not because you're Chelsea and not because I'm just West Ham, but I disagree. Let's scroll down. Peter, if you brought in Celtic and Rangers, you would just get all the religious hatred every week, and that doesn't belong in English football. Teacher Zednek. You didn't see me for quite a while still because I didn't know you started your own channel. Clive from Green. Well, thank you for that, Clive. Much appreciated. And thank you for finding me, Zdenek. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Looking forward to having... See, Zdenek, he's an Arsenal fan and we love him. And he's a really nice guy because he talks, really respectful. We respect him, etc. Indefinite. You're welcome, mate. But let's be respectful as well. Andrew. I want Moyes to succeed, but you can question and criticize his decisions when he's doing poorly. You can congratulate him when he's doing well. Doesn't mean you want Moyes gone. Absolutely agree, Andrew. I totally agree. But some of the comments about Moyes over the past few weeks have been atrocious. Richard would agree to have the Big Six join the Super League, then still have a League Cup and FA Cup. It would be a change to see the different teams in the final. I agree. They will soon know what they're missing. They will soon know what they're missing if they're not involved in domestic competitions, because it'll get boring. We're flying out to play Real Madrid again. And Real Madrid fans, we're fucking playing Chelsea again. That'll get boring. and just playing the same teams over and over again. At least with the Premier League, you get 3 teams that go down, 3 teams that come up. You've got 3 new teams to compete against, etc. It makes it interesting. It makes it exciting. Indefinite. I will give Cornet the goal, but not Antonio, who should have gotten a second. Well, you said the same thing earlier on, mate, with great respect. Who else we got? David M. If it was the other way round and Chelsea equalised and Chelsea player clips Fabianski, I don't think Fab would have overreacted. I agree. I don't think he would have done. Probably would not have gone to VAR either. I agree with that as well. Gary, indefinite. If you honestly think that was a foul and that goal should have been called back, admit you don't give a damn about fair play. Move on. Never want to hear Chelsea fans cry about VAR, which they will. I'm sure they will. When a decision goes against them, I'm sure they will be the first to complain. Lenstig, still, you give the bullshit argument credence when you entertain the Blues' false comparison. What's my bullshit argument, mate? Lenstig, I like to know when you entertain the Blues' false comparison. You mean when I'm responding to indefinite, or do you mean something else? Zedek, I really don't understand why some hammers on Moyes out. It's so disrespectful considering the last 2 seasons. It makes no sense. You had a tough run of fixtures, got robbed by VAR on top of that. Yeah, and that's an Arsenal fan telling you that. Chris Biggs, what is the obsession with Fabianski? He's being caused for a poor keeping every time in goal. Cannot stop us. I blamed him for the first goal. It went through his leg. The irony, I say Fabianski never comes off his line. The minute it comes off his line, it goes through his effing legs. That was really disappointing. Wacko Gov, good evening to you. Was Tuchel fine for what he said, or was it to do with the incident with Conte? Daniela, indefinite, with great respect, but you're clueless. You've been asked a question, refused to answer because you don't have one. You just want to be argumentative. Well, we're not going to put up indefinite's comments anymore because if he won't be respectful, then no point having him here. Indefinite. How was the Chelsea chats after you played Spurs? I'm sure you took it on the chin and moved on. See, goes around. Flamer, good evening to you. VAR is killing the game with love. It's disappointing. VAR is disappointing. It's getting worse. And why is it, like I said, why is it it's not so controversial abroad in Europe, but it seems to be so damn controversial in this country? It was brought in to iron out the mistakes. It's just making it's created its own set of mistakes. And if that's the case, then there's no point having it at all. Absolutely no point having it at all. Let's scroll down. Who should we pick? Let's have a look. Michael, getting Cornet was a big scoop. He'll go a long way. He'll go a long way for us. Whenever I see he's on the bench, I scream. Oh, very clever play on words. And you go on. I think Moyes in the twilight zone, not using him much. He's quite whippy up and down, but he's chock-full full of talent. Oh, mate, you started early. Crosshammer. It's clear as day. Bet VAR is thinking what to do now to fix the next match. It feels that way, doesn't it? I don't want to be that fan thinking that, but it feels that way. Astrophos. Cornet had a header on the post and a goal in 10 minutes. This should say something. It should stay, he should start, without a shadow of a doubt. He looked lively, didn't he? He looked lively when he started. Hang on a minute. Lynn, what's wrong with the cats? Cats are meowing. I'm sorry about that. Darren, if this shit happens to us again, Moyes should bring our players off the pitch, just walk off and tell the Premier League to take one. Do you know what? Maybe that's what's needed. Maybe that kind of demonstration, say, when it can't play under these conditions, we've been, Moyes was absolutely right to be incandescent with rage after that game. Absolutely right. And as we said earlier in the game, there was no way that the Premier League, the FA, were gonna put him to task on that, or Declan, because they knew they were on a hiding to nothing. If they had fined Moyes or banned him or whatever for making the comments he made, I bet you Moyes would have gone even more, would have been even more outraged. And I would agree with him. Shekel, it feels like these officials are making these controversial decisions to take the piss. It does feel like that sometimes, I'm afraid. Daniela, Flamer, it is the powers that run football that's killing the game, not VAR. The big six that want all the glory for themselves. Like I said, many fans are getting to the point now where they just don't want If these so-called top six want to move away, let them go. They'll take all the money. So what? Do you know what? The game will survive. The game will become more competitive. It will survive. It will. I bet you a pound to a penny. The Premier League will still attract worldwide. Because all right, we know Man United and Liverpool and Man City and all that. They've got big base of fans abroad, etc. But so have West Ham, so have other teams as well. A lot of these teams have got fan bases abroad. We've got a massive Scandinavian Hammers outlet, etc. We've got fans all over the world, as does many other teams. We'll survive. There'll still be people that will want to watch. All right, will the money be as big? Okay, maybe not. So what? But I tell you what, we'll fucking enjoy it a lot more. I'll tell you that. And by the way, if they want to start their own league, take VAR with you. Have it with you. Don't leave it with us. Thank you very much. Ryan, Villa one wasn't VAR. It was just a shitty linesman. But should or shouldn't VAR not get involved in that? Or, I mean, what's it for? I don't know. Andrew, Moyes needs to find a solution of how to make Scamacca effective by not playing him the way he does with Antonio. Otherwise, we'll have another Haller situation. I do agree with that. I am worried about that. But I think with Paqueta here now, that you're going to see something different. Keith, I can see a time ahead when some of these Premier League referees have a day in court. I genuinely believe that. I think there's going to be quite a lot of these refs too. They're going to have a lot to answer to be quite honest with you, without a doubt. Hammerette, fair point, indefinite. Let's go back then. Let's see what indefinite has said, because you're all agreeing with him. Right, indefinite. Fair enough. I respect the West Ham fan base. I just want to say you are our rivals, but I'm getting tired of VAR ruining the game. All it does is expose how corrupt the game is. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. And you're getting a lot of people agreeing with you as well. It's really it's absolutely ruining the game. So Hammerette said, fair point, definitely. It must be able to you must be able to admit that the apparent foul on poor injured Mendy was the biggest. He said something nice, so you just went bang. Shekel, Mendy was jogging around Zagreb Stadium today, the day after, like nothing happened. Of course he was, because nothing happened. That's why he was running around, because nothing happened. Keith, and that's another thing. The PGMOL association is now PGMOL. It's nothing more than a business, and very suspect one at that. Garant, good evening to you. Moyes is too defensive. VAR needs to go. End of. I kind of get why Moyes has been defensive, but we haven't won games, etc. We haven't been on a run, but I do want him to unleash some of these players. I really do. Chris, what about hearing the referee and what? Yeah, I said that earlier, mate, about the referee coming out and saying, but that's not going to change the decision. I don't actually care. I think it's even worse that the referee comes out and tells us that he's made a mistake by telling us, oh, the reason why I gave this decision is because, and we all go, what? What I want. If VAR's got to change, it's got to change there and then. At that moment, the decision's made. Like I said earlier on, maybe the managers having the opportunity to dispute, I don't know, 3 disputes a game, saying that's got to go back. But then it can't just be the same people, the VAR person and the referee talking. There's got to be something else involved, which is why I said it's got to go beyond it. You've got to have ex-footballers, ex-coaches, etc., involved in that VAR decision making. They'll see it from a completely different perspective. That's what I think. Maybe those two things combined can actually make VAR better. Having a panel. It will take longer, though. This is the annoying thing. It already takes quite long for VAR to come to a decision. But to a panel where they talk about it, maybe they can make snap decisions like that, so that it will be quicker. And the managers being able to dispute, to sort of say, hang on a minute, I want to dispute that call. Darren, we need to take a leaf out of how they use VAR in rugby. Why does it work so well in rugby, in all other sports, but not football? And why does it work so well in football abroad and not here? Why? Corruption? Lernstick. Umpires call whether or not the ball is hitting the wicket. Hashtag corrupt. What else we got? Indefinite. The problem really becomes that VAR dictates top 4 and top 6 in reality. The FA will pick and choose what teams get what. They are corrupt. Get rid of VAR. No more controversies to have. See, I kind of, as much as we moaned about, I agree with you. As much as we used to moan about a referee making a decision, at least it was the ref that, got it right or wrong. Now we've got technology and you're still getting it wrong. They're still getting it wrong. Ian, it could come into play if Newcastle or West Ham miss out on Champions League or get relegated by a point and decide to launch legal action. Imagine that. Imagine the furore that would then cause. Let's scroll down a bit more. Where are we? Let's do Shekel. Put neutral footballers, not ones who play for the teams that are reffing. Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree. Howard. Imagine Fat Sam using his 3 challenges, then seeing a blatantly wrong call. He heard his heart would explode. David Anderson, what about the McTominay handball from Man United last week, which should have been a penalty? Where was VAR? VAR saw it, but did not work because football is corrupt. See, this is how people feel. And you can't, you can't sort of turn around and say, I think you're wrong, because a lot of fans feel that way. I totally agree, David. Chris Bates, how about challenging like in hockey? If you challenge and lose, you lose your next challenge. Yeah, possibly. Well, do something. Something's got to change. Let's see what these conversations are gonna come up with between PGMOL and the Premier League. Jay Hammer, get rid of VAR. Go back to refs and linesmen. Yeah, old-fashioned way. Shekel, let's put Rio and Henry in the VAR box in the Arsenal game. Henry would say it's not a foul, whilst Rio would say it is a foul. Well, this is it. You've got to have neutrals. Ryan, if we get rid of VAR, then we would just moan about poor decisions not having that. But you know what? Honestly, Ryan, at least we walk away and just, like I said a moment ago, at least we say, well, the referee was shit, and that's that. Now we're saying the referee's shit and technology's shit and the person behind the technology's shit. Now it's like there's more people involved and still getting it wrong, and it's causing even more frustration. Gary, what a good idea. Bring in French, Italian and German officials. That would sort it out. Dan, I would love it if they got rid of it. Football was far better before it existed. It wasn't perfect before it, but you could forgive human error. And more than this utter shit that we now have, it's tiresome. Absolutely. Indefinite. The FA needs to go and get international referees. Yeah, another good call. I really think people are getting paid for match fixing. There's a lot of money in gambling. A lot is won and lost with these decisions. Do you know, see, this is it. This is where and I'm not disagreeing with that, but this is how we've become as a fan base. We're all saying the same thing. We all think, even if there's no truth in it, a lot of us think that. A lot of us, it runs through our minds that we're going, what's going on here? How's that decision? How did they make that decision? How did they make this decision? What the hell is going on? Absolutely agree. Let's scroll down a bit more. What are we up to? We're nearly catching up. Neil, VAR decision was shocking, but the ref was totally piss weak by agreeing with him. He should have had a balls to say, no, my decision, the goal stands. Totally agree. And this is the thing, when they're told to go to the screen, you know what's going to happen. You know that the decision is going to be reversed. The minute they go to the screen, you know it. That's what we got. We knew it last week when we played Spurs at home. The minute the referee was called to look at VAR, we knew that penalty wasn't going to be given. Great. Because, in that respect, it was the right decision to make. But when it happened against Chelsea in the last minute of the game, you just knew you knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Daniela, hi, Stel. Any chance doing a show one evening when some of us can come on, maybe a Christmas review? I will promise you, when we do something like, absolutely, I'll do that. Nearer the time, I'll send out a link and you'd be more than welcome. Absolutely. Love that. Let's scroll down, because then I can get pissed and have you lot chat for Christmas. Then you lot have got to control the chat. That'll be funny. It is pissing down. I can hear the thunderstorms from here. Richard, it was Mendy's reaction that set it off. Sadly, it's become part of the modern. It's sad. That was horrid. English Yardie. To be honest, the Greedy Six can kick off to the Super League, get rid and take VR with you. Absolutely. Mandy, the game has opened up when Benny and Cornet came on. That's not the same. Not the same. It did open up. I did say we started playing football when they came on, and we took Antonio off. We couldn't pump it up to him. And I did say I hate those tactics. Whenever Moyes is under pressure or feels under pressure, he reverts back to those tactics. I absolutely hate them. and I hope Skamaka starts not only on Thursday, I hope he starts on Sunday as well. David, how poor to see goals being scored with great celebrations to be chalked off in the future. Players will be reluctant. So think about us fans. I smashed my little toe. It was actually after the first goal. I was in the lower stand, and I was at the back of the lower stand, and we scored our goal when Antonio scored. I must have leapt because I can't remember running. I don't know what happened, but I found myself near the front row, and then I felt this pain. I felt a pain in my chest, not the heart side, and I felt a pain in my toe. And I sort of limped back to I can't believe I'm telling you this. I limped back to my seat, and I've got a rib. My ribs are bruised. And then I thought I better take my shoes off because my toe's aching, and it was full of blood and everything. I stubbed it. I think I've broken it. It looks absolutely black. What was that about? About celebrating goals. There you go. So it's horrible for us fans as well. There you go. There was my short story about Chelsea. Whack-a-gov. I think you've been quite harsh at indefinite. He has made a few good points on VAR. Was just sharing his opinion. No worries whatsoever. Happy to have him here. Yeah, he came out with some good things. Kent, VAR would cause riots with decisions like Saturday from massive highs to demoralising lows. Makes fans so angry with the right to be. That moment of joy after a goal has gone. And when we came out, I think you must have been there, Kent, as well. When we came out of the stadium on Saturday, it wasn't a happy atmosphere. It was a bit toxic, and it did kick off a little bit outside the stadium. There was one or two people that weren't happy at all. Ryan, they need to stop protecting the refs and put them in front of the media after the game. Yeah, but I want something to happen during the game. I don't care about their reasons for. That's no good after the game is finished. There's got to be something that happens during the game. That when that final whistle's blown, the result's the result. You can't change it. They won't change it retrospectively. That would be a massive a problem if they started to do that. I want to see a change where VAR decisions are questioned and looked at and interrogated, and then maybe make the right decision in the end. Let's scroll down, Darren. The Premier League treats us fans like shit. Changing fixtures at the last minute after a day's work and travel have already been booked. VAR ruining the game. They don't give a damn about us. Yeah. Hammerette, back fair enough, but to join a West Ham fan channel and say that result was fair, knowing full well that we are all pissed off, just asking for trouble, in my opinion. Tries to bring. I think you were talking about indefinite there. Dan, you have to remember that rugby is a thugs game played by gentlemen. Football is a gentleman's game played by thugs. The players don't respect the officials. They even force decisions with their antics. Good point. Darren, coincidences happen once in a blue moon, not every week. These decisions are not coincidences. Results are manipulated by corrupt referees. It's horrible to think that, but we can't help thinking that. DJR, VAR should review only fouls that could not have been seen by the ref because his view was blocked. If you saw it, leave it. Good shout. That's a really good shout. Only use VAR for the things that the ref doesn't see. We may not like it, but at least it's the ref's decision. Yeah, good shout. Crosshammer. I still have nightmares about Mike Dean and that look. I think VAR works better in rugby, as most times the refs call when he wants assistance. Unless there is something blatant off the ball, then just let the ref get on with it. And it wasn't VAR meant to be light touch this season? Wasn't that what they said? It's going to be light touch. It's going to keep in the background. It's taken centre stage, isn't it? Good evening, Lee. How are you, mate? What about giving managers 2 appeals during match to challenge? Yep, we talked about that. Maybe having an appeal. Because once that final whistle goes, that's it. You can't appeal. You can complain and officially complain and all that. Doesn't make a difference after the whistle's blown. Have something during the game. If you don't agree with the decision, have the right to appeal it. The managers 2 or 3 rights of appeal throughout a game. Do it during the game. It's too late when the whistle's blown. Ken, Jared Gillette, the VAR ref from our game, is Australian. Does it matter though? I mean, or are you suggesting that maybe he's not experienced enough? But this is it. That's why I think there should be not just a referee there. There should be someone else or a panel there, 2 or 3 people an ex-player, an ex this, an ex that, a ref, etc. Discuss it. Make that decision. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, foul, no, yes, blah, blah, blah. Right, that's it. Unanimous decision. Let's go with it. And then that way, even if a decision goes against us, at least we can turn around and say it's the decision made by a panel, which includes an ex-footballer and includes an ex-manager or whatever, and we might be just a little bit more accepting of it. We may still not like it, but we might be just a little bit more accepting, rather than, someone sitting there. What does he say to the referee? Maybe, if anything, that's the conversation we should be hearing in the crowd. We should be hearing the conversation between VAR and the ref. Not just the ref coming out and saying afterwards, but maybe listening to that conversation. Indefinitely, you are still here. It's all good. I always see your opposing views on Chelsea channels. I expected people to be against me. Just love the pushback. I love the passion because I love my club just as much. Fair play, mate. Absolutely fair play. Let's scroll down. Good evening, Mark. How are you, mate? VAR saved us when the ball hit Cresswell's head and arm. Some decisions fair, some aren't. But I talked about that earlier, mate. And that decision, the VAR decision that went our way, is because that deflected off. It wasn't deliberate. It came so close. Cresswell and Kane were so close. Kane headed it. It literally rebounded. Or Cresswell didn't even know what happened, and it hit his arm. You can't say that was deliberate. Whereas this decision, with Bowen jumping over or trying to jump over Mendy, completely different. So people say they iron themselves out. I don't know if they do. Chris, I'm just too tired of these greedy six. They think it'll work like the US. If they leave, let it not eat it to manufacture. If they leave, it is not easy to manufacture passion. American sports have no alternatives, not because they're better. Good point, Mark. VAR, mentioned that. Neil, VAR works a lot better in the A-League than it does in the EPL. Why does it work better elsewhere? Is it because people are better trained to manage VAR, to know what to look for? Why? Good evening to you, Clive. I hope you're well. I hope I'm not repeating anyone else, but why don't all Premier League teams insist on having some kind of player? Yeah, said it, mate. Yeah, we were talking about alternatives. What can change this? And to me, something's got to happen during the game. When a VAR's decision's made, there should be some kind of representation. Maybe those who are watching VAR have an ex-player there, an ex-manager there, or something like that. Someone has been involved in the game. Keith. VAR was supposed to be about offside calls and ball in and out. They also suggested it be used to check for simulated diving. I'm seeing none of that. Good point. That's a really good point. Claude, good evening to you. How are you, mate? Big up. Yes, man, it was Daylight Robbie. It absolutely was, Claude. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining us again. Crosshammer. Definite. Why don't you leave the Chelsea cheaters and join honest West Hammers? Hey, best suggestion all night. VAR being used when the ref thinks he may have missed something, not being called over to view something that he deemed not a foul. See, this is a good point. Another good point. A few of you have now mentioned this. Don't ask him to look at something he's already made a decision on. Ask him to look for something that he hasn't seen. Yeah, I get that. Andrew. Moyes said he only wanted players that were better than he had. He's got them now more, and no more excuses about betting in. He needs to play them now. He will. I think we're on the. I know the number of games we lost and all that. But as I said earlier in the show, I think we've only played badly twice. If you think otherwise, let me know. Teacher, Zdenek. I think we've all come to a conclusion that something new is needed. VAR isn't working. How about we replace refs with robots, Daleks if need be to deal with cheats? Bit extreme. David. Problem is still, if we go back to just refs, it is the same refs who are making the corrupt biased decisions with VAR. They're being directed by Sky, Premier League, so nothing more. Good shout. Yeah, David, that's a good shout. Yeah, will it get rid of what we perceive there to be corruption? So therefore, even if we keep VAR, go back to what I said earlier, using ex-footballers, etc. Is that the right way to go? Is that the best way to go? Not just about having refs who we kind of go, why? Why are they making these decisions? Good point. Richard, having appeals during the game is making it like American football. It is. But what choice do we have? What choice do we end up having? Because once that whistle blows, that's it. Ryan, wouldn't give him managers challenges, not cause more delays. That's the unfortunate thing. It will do. Thought we wanted more free flowing game. It will cause more delays. That's the problem. You're absolutely right. It will. Kent, I was there still. Painful VAR was supposed to encourage more goals. It's chalking off too many. In regards to Mr. Gillette, I meant we were already using officials from abroad. Oh, got you. Yeah, understood. Trini, how are you, mate? In our situation, the ref did not have to change his mind. I don't blame VAR, but the cheating ref. Chris Nix, good evening to you. It's a myth VAR works well in Europe. There you go. Why? We need to study what goes on in Europe. The solution to fix VAR is to simplify it, just offsides and penalties. There you go. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's maybe if it's only used for that, we may not get so many controversies. VAR nil probably works better in the A League as not as much money is bet on like there is here. See, people are rightly thinking it's corrupt. You know, they're rightly thinking that. Trini, one ref at the weekend was asked to look at VAR and he did not change his mind. Now hopefully that's the shape of things to come. Shekel, VAR is definitely there to stay, but these refs need to start making the right decisions. It's only game 6, and the refs have made countless errors after looking at a screen for 1 minute. That is really, really worrying. Really worrying. Sharky, hello, mate. Just popped on briefly, about to go to bed. I hope you're well. Thank you, and have a good night's sleep. Michael, in cricket, suspicious betting patterns around the world are investigated in relation to cricket matches. Is the same thing done in football? Dodgy VAR decisions may be linked. See, that's what people think. You cannot help thinking that. You know, you can't. Lernstick, how many points did Arsenal have after the 6-game spell? I don't know. Honestly, I genuinely don't know. But if we were playing badly, I would say to you, yeah, we're playing badly, and we kind of deserve to be where we are. But we're not playing badly. We're not. Keith, Hammerett, because it's been misused and abused, the on-field refs are being swayed by VAR, and that's why we need to know. That's what we need to know why they're being swayed. Clive, I'm going 3-0 on a Skamaka hat trick. I'm going to do I'm trying to do previews. Honestly, I really am, and I'm trying to do reviews. By the way, if you haven't seen the vlog and review that Dodsey did the other day of the Chelsea game, do go and have a look at that. It's a really good watch, to be honest with you. They're really short, 5 minutes. Maybe that's what I'll do. Short previews and reviews. Would you watch those if they're really quite short? I'll try and do that, because I really try and, you know, maybe with not all the, you know, the music and all the images and all that. Would you watch that? You know, if I did really, really short previews and really, really short reviews. Ryan, the referee refused to overturn his decision, needs a medal, and in charge of our next game, in charge of every game until he calls one against us. Sharky, cheers, still fingers crossed for a win. We'll be all right on Thursday. We will be all right. Keith, we were always told at referee school that we had to be 100% certain. If not, we shouldn't make the call. These clowns cannot tell us that they are 100% certain. True. Hammerette, still, Keith has been a ref before. Interesting views. Yeah, love those. Love that. The fact that Keith has. If I'd known that, Keith, I would have invited you on to discuss it. Send me an email. If anyone wants to come on the show, send me an email at westhamvoice@gmail.com. Send me an email if you fancy coming on. Keith, you'd be welcome to talk about VAR in the future if you fancy it. English Yard is still in the Premier, the ownership, Golden Sullivan, are they the only British owners of a Premier League club? Most clubs, no, they're not the only British owners. There's still a few left. Not that many. I think Brentford, I could be wrong. I think Brentford might have English owners, and I think there's 1 or 2 other teams as well. But no, they're not the last. They're not the last standing. Kent, is the point, also we only have a couple of top refs, whereas 10 years ago we had 10. The standard has had 10 top refs. The standard has dropped, and that's not down to VAR. VAR is supposed to help, but because refs are poor, VAR refs game. That's why I'm suggesting it can't just be extra or referees behind the VAR screen. DJR, just change the order of how decisions are reviewed. Only cue from VAR is, did you see a hair pull? If answer is yes, move on. If no, have a look. On-field ref decides. VAR says nothing else. Yeah. Trini, I'll watch you whenever. Thank you very much. You should have, if you came on earlier, Trini, you would have seen 3 minutes of nothing. I wonder how many, let me see how many views I've got on that one. Oh, I'll look at it later. Trini, I started a show earlier on. Nothing worked. I was on mute, etc., etc., and and then it just died. The whole thing died after 3 minutes, and I thought, what the fuck? And people were saying if I wasn't on mute, they would have heard me effing and swearing. And you know, I don't swear. Wacko. I think VR works better in rugby, as most times ref calls when he wants. Oh yeah, you said that earlier, mate. Keith. Don't hate me, guys. I've been a hammer. No, mate. No, I respect. Seriously, Keith. If you know, if you want to come on, or if anyone else wants to come on to talk about certain subjects, then email me westhamvoice@gmail.com, and let's try and sort a few shows like that out. Daniela, Michael Charlton. It was in the early 2000s with spots being some of our players got done with betting on the time of throw-ins. Spot betting, spot betting on throw-ins. Fucking hell. Shekel, the Premier League needs a breath of fresh air with some new international rules. Oh, that'd be very interesting. That's it. Can I put my email address up, please? Yeah, if I had it. Hang on a minute. Let's see if I've got it. I've got it. There you go. There you go. westhamvoice@gmail.com. I didn't think I had it up, but there you go. West Ham Voice, if you want to come on the show to talk about a specific topic, more than welcome. westhamvoice@gmail.com. And on that, that's it. Just over 2 hours. No transfers. Just over 2 hours. Keith, subscribe. Thank you. New to the channel. It's been great chat. Much appreciated, Keith. Honestly, mate, thank you for finding me and thank you for subscribing. Really, really appreciate that. And whoever else is new, etc., do hit the like, subscribe button and all that. Look, I'll be on throughout the week. I've got a couple of shows that I want to talk about. I've got some issues that I want to discuss. So do look out for those. I'm going to do a preview. Who we got? Oh, I've got a Stow fan. I've got to get back to him. I've got a Stow fan that's going to come on to do the preview. So there you go. I've got to do a preview. I've got a Stow fan that's going to come on to do a preview with. So that'll happen this week. And I'll do various other shows. Some will be pre-recorded, some will be live, etc. But do look out. If you subscribe and hit the bell notification, you'll know when I'm next on. Really much appreciated, as usual, on a Monday night. I'm really, 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 really sorry that I messed up earlier on. And I bet you that 3-minute silent video has had more viewers than this one has had. But anyway, have a great week. I'll see you very soon. Thank you all for joining.